Welcome to the Talking Timelines podcast. We are four women with 4 points of view and four accents with one common goal: to share insights and information about what's going on in the world from a higher consciousness perspective. No BS, no PC, just lots of ideas that you won't hear on mainstream media. We chat, we laugh, and most of all, we shed and share light. Join us each week as we talk timelines.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Timelines, episode 42 today. And for those of you that may have seen it, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie years ago, giving my age away again, talked about what the meaning of life was. And in the movie, they came up with the number 42. And I thought that was weird because you've also got 420, which anyone out there knows what that means. It's got 42 in it and refers to the meaning of life as well. Maybe there is something in that after all. Who knows? But that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the meaning of life. Why are we here from our perspectives and, stuff that we may have come across over the years, and just see where the conversation goes. So pull up a chair, relax, and enjoy, hopefully. So I'm going to go to you first, Laura. What do you consider the meaning of your life to be, and the meaning of life in general?
My life. Uh, well, I'm going to first say that I've heard, and it's funny because as you were speaking, there were even more things that were coming in. I've heard many different theories, and of course they're all theories because nobody really knows. Um, and I find them all really curious and all real possibilities, or maybe it's more than one. But um, the one that kind of makes the most sense to me is that Source wants to experience itself.
Mm.
Source, it's a way of expanding, and just because it's when you look at that explanation, to me explains why you have so many situations happening on Earth that we would perceive as being negative or undesirable, or people born handicapped, people have accidents, people very undesirable. And if you look at it from that perspective of Source wants to experience all these different potentials, then I thought, okay, well, that explains that.
Mm-hmm.
Same time, I've also heard that we have soul contracts, that our individual souls, want to have different experiences. So they kind of have contracts with certain people, certain situations, um, in certain incarnations
Mm-hmm.
in order to experience certain things. So it's kind of similar but different because one's a more individual basis and the other one is just the broader scale. Um, Both of them I find to be really, really interesting because, and it kind of makes sense in a way
Mm-hmm.
that there's so many, every individual has their own unique experience. They can grow up with the same parents, you can grow up in a similar area, but every single soul has a unique experience. So I thought that kind of resonated with me. And then, you hear people say that Earth is a school.
Yeah.
So lessons that we um, haven't learned in previous lifetimes, or um, just, yeah, certain things that we need to work through. We come into 3D, work through this, and then our soul kind of takes that information, or we just become more evolved.
Mm.
Those are kind of the ones pretty much. And then, wait, one more. The most basic one that I've heard is that we're here just to enjoy life, to have fun, to enjoy, to just experience all that there is while we are in the physical, because that's a very unique situation that the non-physical dimensions do not have. They don't have a body. They can't taste, they can't smell, they can't touch. So it's just to experience this 3D to the fullest. And of course, there's what was perceived as negative as well as positive. You can't be on Earth and not have challenging experiences.
Yeah.
That's
Susan,
kind of
what's
my
your, yeah, thank you. What's your take on it?
I've much wondered that. just in my own life journey, why are we here? What is what is the purpose? And I think you have different purposes in different times of your life. And plus the system has, trained us for, what the system thinks that we need to be doing. And so we've been brainwashed a lot along the way into what we think our purpose is. And then, and when you're young, you're just, you're starting life, and you're just flowing with basically the people around you and what your interests are, and you're learning. And then when you get older, you raise kids, do whatever, just try to be the best version of yourself, and to raise your kids to be good people. The society trains us for that. Don't go against the grain. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I kind of think all things are acceptable. I don't think there's any, unless you're hurting someone else. Some people want to grow up and, be attorneys and lawyers and doctors, and other people just want to play in their garden.
Yeah.
That's what makes them happy. And then as you get older, just, you look back on some of the choices that you've made, and you wish you would have done things a little different.
I think we grow into ourselves
Yes.
and eventually realize that we're just meant to be in the present, buzzing, like a bumblebee at the best frequency we can with what we're doing. But that takes years of working through, like you said, Laura, karmic contracts and things like that. We're not. Let me share something with you that I've been pondering this week. When I was younger, I knew somebody who was fantastic to be around, really good, charismatic kind of person, but also very narcissistic. But anyway, this person, and I was pondering why they were so narcissistic, but still lovable, very lovable in that, and had all this charisma and were able to manifest and so on and so forth, and why they were like that. And I got the message that they were a non-character player. We've spoken about these before, right? Um, so, and I listened to something recently that went into so a non-character player is basically um somebody that appears human on Earth, is, appears real, but they haven't actually got a soul essence in their spirit body. So they're on this planet and they're soulless. We've heard people talk about things like this, these people, these elites that are harming the planet and harming people and so on, being soulless people. And a lot of clones and stuff, there's talk about that. And I was listening to somebody who said that out of that there's not nearly 8 billion people on the planet. There's just over 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that pretty much 5 billion of them are clones anyway, non-source players, non-character players, in the system created to affect the mass consciousness, drag it down. And we know the kind of people. They're just, they're
Right.
buying their cheap designer labels and they just follow the protocol, and they're at celebrities and they're into the Kardashians and stuff like that. You could just There's a certain type that they're very programmable, and they're programmable for a reason, because it affects the mass consciousness and keeps the elites in control, the dark controllers that we've talked about before. So I was meditating and pondering on this. Why was this person, so, if you like, lovable, but wasn't capable of love themselves? They didn't have a relationship. They didn't they showed empathy, but it wasn't sincere empathy. It was like telling people what they want to hear, like making out that you care when you really don't care. And stuff like that. And the message I got, which resonated, was that some women and their partners, whether they're married or not, are they actually choose to have the mother experience, but bringing one of these non-character players through their womb, and the same way, because they're born, they're not just churned out from a factory. They're born through the physical vessel because without a soul, because they don't want the karmic implications of having a soul baby. Now just think about that for a minute. So it's like you could have the baby when we have
I've
a
I've heard that. I've heard that a lot of people choose not to have children because they don't want to have the karma.
yes, but the non-character players can come in, so you can have the child and the experience of being a mother and nurturing and taking care of that child, but you're not creating the karma with that child because there's no soul in there to store the karmic consequences in your matrix. And that made a lot of sense to me
Hmm.
when that information came to me. So it's much more complicated, the meaning of life, than people think. We choose our parents. Most people don't realize that. We're told that we choose our parents because we've got some kind of karmic stuff we've got to sort through with them. We choose our immediate families,
Family. Yep.
our soul cluster as well, which are, parts of us that we meet, like we have, and I did with Lisa. We're part of the same soul clusters. Like you meet people and there's an instant soul connection. Like you feel like you've known this person forever. And there's a real pure connection there. And that's because we've got certain soul clusters that have worked through certain lifetimes, and we all swap places. Mother and father may be daughter and son in another life. Your brother may be your sister in a past life, or your child. I know my best friend in the UK was a sister in one life and she was a mother in another couple of lives, and our friendship was extremely pure. Um, and I felt that. So to me, the meaning of our life in here is to work through these eons and millennia and centuries of all the stuff that we've created with these parts of our soul clusters that we now need to come in and put right. So we chose to come into this planet, to Earth, through a human vessel, to have a human experience, so that we've got a simulation that we're all just holographic images in a simulation. So we're all just, the equivalent of computer programs. Even just getting around your head around that is a lot. We come in to correct the programming and the software and the memories and the morphic resonances of our collective lifetimes that are now manifesting in the world. For instance, war. Those of us that's got war in our consciousness, that's being projected into reality. What's going on with Ukraine and Russia at the moment is a mass projection going on, so that we can now say, right, this needs to come out of our consciousness once and for all now, so we're not going back to it again. And I think that's what part of this awakening that we're all a part of is to do with as well, for us to wake up and understand that fact, not just, yeah, we've got karma with a few people around us, to realize that we've got collective karma, cause and effect, that is going on, and the old programs are still running. And to me, the meaning of life is to figure that out and do the best you can to counteract anything negative from the past, bringing that back into balance, back into neutrality, so we can clean the planet up, clean humanity up, project a better reality for all concerned. That's the way I see it. And everyone does it their different ways. We're not all evangelical activists. Everyone's got their way of doing it, whether it's just meditation every day, whether it's being a speaker or an influencer, whether it's being a teacher, whether it's doing something like that. Everyone's got their own way of doing it, and some people just do it by being conscientious observers and just being present. They've mastered presence at an early age, and they're in the moment all the time, which is where the pure neutrality is.
Don't you think I mean, to me, I found, well, people try to make sense of things that don't make sense. Death of children, or I mean, you name it. There, you can pick whichever one you want. And, I've heard that, or abortion, for example, or a child that, dies soon after that, that soul chose that. They chose, okay, you know what? I changed my mind, like with abortion many times or miscarriages. The soul actually says, you know what? I'm not ready, not
Yeah.
this time. And they make this choice not to. And the same token, the parents would have also chosen to experience loss.
Hmm.
So their soul gets to experience this and grow from that. And maybe they help other people going through this. And this soul is making so that kind of all made sense to me because it kind
Hmm.
of explains things that we can't explain. It's interesting. I know somebody locally, I don't know her well, but I know that she gave, I guess, gave birth to a stillborn, right? That's right. If the baby, you have to carry it through the full, right? You have to give
Yeah.
birth. Is that what it's called? Like when they, and which I can't imagine anything more traumatic to actually go
Yeah.
through
No.
the whole. And yeah, so the way she kind of went through healing from it is, they did a funeral. They did the whole ceremony, and she wrote a book about it, and they named it. The child has a name,
Yeah.
and so she therefore is now helping other people. So that is I don't want to say it's proof of this, but it kind of um just exemplifies people that go through certain things, and maybe they need to in order to be that person to help others. Um, a lot of people that become therapists, I mean, you probably know this, become therapists or mental health workers, they have their own shit they want to work through. So what they do is they study this stuff to
Yeah.
try to figure out themselves or why they do things. There's such an interest. Why is there such an interest in this? One, they usually have been through some stuff themselves or they're working through. And two, they may also have a natural ability to help people to see things and intuition and whatever. But that I think more than anything else, just makes the most sense. And you can kind of look at things and not necessarily see things as being so tragic.
Yeah.
I mean, when you first hear about it, it's like it's kind of hard because it almost makes you feel insensitive when you see a homeless person. Then you say, well, maybe that soul was a king in a previous lifetime, and he
Yeah.
chose, I want to see what it's like to be. So we don't know, but it kind of gives you another perspective of looking at things.
Well, this is where the wisdom comes in of being the observer and not
Right,
getting dragged into it. And the difference between sympathy and empathy,
right.
and all that kind of thing. I read in a book called The Only Planet of Choice years ago about termination of pregnancies. And you're right, the incoming spirit has conversation with the higher consciousness of the mother to be. And if either one has changed their mind, either one, and said, I'm not ready for this, it's not the right time for this. The spirit doesn't go, in the book, it said the soul, sorry, this is another thing people get mixed up. Soul and spirit are not the same thing. To
Mhm.
me, soul is like a spark. It's the spark of the core of creation, what people would call God, one. It's that divine, don't like to use the word, but it's the best one I can think of at the moment, spark of your soul essence. And that's all, that cluster is like a star of all of our soul cluster essences together. When we get pregnant, there is a warmth you can feel inside. And the people talk about the stork coming and putting the egg into the woman's womb and the baby into the woman's womb. Now, I remember when I got pregnant, I remember the actual day, the moment, and I knew in my head, I'm going to have a baby within less than an hour of having intercourse with my son's father. I knew, I felt it. Something changed in my body. So
But
this,
you're also extraordinary in that ability. You're so in tune with energy. not just your body, with energy.
Yeah, but I'm going back 34 years ago and I've only been working with energy for nearly
Yeah,
25. So
but
it
it's
was even,
it's
it
always
was always
been
there. I've always been a
it's always been.
sensitive. Yeah. But so the spirit is like the golden egg that is downloaded into your channel when you conceive. That goes into the womb. So the soul comes in at round about 4.5 months into the pregnancy. And most women that I've spoken to anyway, round about that time is the first kind of time you feel the baby move inside you. It's like a flutter. That's the soul essence coming in and connecting with the golden egg, the auric field, which is the spirit that houses the soul. Okay. So if you think about that and then you look at terminations generally it was up to 20 weeks, which is a couple of weeks before that happens. So what's
Mm.
being removed is flesh with an energy field of spirit around it. The soul essence hasn't actually connected to it prior to that. So all of this stuff that I've looked into made sense when I found that. And then I found a fantastic painting, can't remember the guy's name now, who did all these like amazing matrix type paintings of people and their energy fields and their meridians and the layers of light in the holographic experience. And it actually shows it that the spirit comes in halfway through the pregnancy in one of his artworks. So when I was pondering all this, I was like, show me some evidence. And this artwork came to me, which showed me exactly what I'm trying to explain here. So that would make sense why terminations were allowed up to 4 months into
Well,
the pregnancy.
I've heard people say also then when the heart starts beating, like that's also when, but I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be.
No, it can come in when the time is right. So the way I see that, it's like the child in the womb is basically just another growing part of us
Right, right.
until the soul goes in. And then it becomes its own sentient being
Mm.
because there's a connection that's made. So that's how I see it. And in that book, it talked about, obviously, if you understand it on that level, I've dealt with a lot of women that have been through these experiences, and I can feel it when I'm working with them, and I don't, just come straight out with it. I'm very subtle with, I generally ask, did you lose a child or have you had a miscarriage or something like that? I wouldn't say, I can see you've had a termination, but I pick up on the guilt that they've got in their womb when I'm doing healing with them and stuff like that. And I tell them about this and say, let go of guilt, let go of it. It wasn't your decision. The woman is the last person to get the decision. The higher self and the unborn spirit have made the decision, and the higher self lets the woman know when she decides to go ahead or not. That's coming from your higher consciousness. It's not coming from the woman. So when I work with people that have been through this, I explain all of this to them. Let go of it. Let go of any guilt. That spirit's not dead. It's still alive. It may have come in 4 years later and is now your second child.
Right.
All of this information needs to be taught at abortion clinics because I think women that go through these things have a lot of trauma and guilt that damage them later in life, make them sick because they're hanging on to, people are telling them they've committed murder and all this kind of stuff. When if the soul
Or
essence
even
isn't in there,
there's even guilt with people that have miscarriages that they feel they caused it. They did something.
yeah, exactly. And that they need to let go of that because these things are decided on a higher level, whether it's going to go ahead or not.
So I know this is like off topic, but not really. So what do you think about birth control?
Well, apart from it being dangerous, I think we should be taught how to read our bodies better, like they did in the old days when certain times of the month it's safe to have intercourse and other times it's not. but also setting intentions.
Right. I mean, if you kind of look at it from a pure sense, if a pregnancy is meant to be, when I mean meant to be, meaning the soul, what we just talked about, then you will get pregnant and you will get pregnant with that person.
Yeah.
If not, it won't happen. And it seems like, of course, there's religious stuff and there's all kinds of, but you just think about like when it first began,
Yeah.
why
But
it
then
began. That's a whole other, whole other conversation.
that's a whole other area, because then you're talking about, okay, so people are having sex all the time. They're taking contraception because they don't want to be having massive families like they used to. I mean, my mum was one of 16. I can't even imagine having
Wow.
16 babies. My dad was
Yeah,
one
my
of,
dad was one of 14.
yeah, and my dad was one of nine, Catholics,
And
say
I
no
had
more.
one.
I had one. Yeah, both my sisters had one as well. We broke that cycle. But
Uh,
but if we knew more about our bodies, and if we knew more about meditation and setting intention, if you go back, way back, like I read the Anastasia books, most of them anyway, 7.5 out of 9, about how when people got together and they wanted a child, they would meditate together, and they would ask for a boy or a girl, whatever they wanted. It was all done in a very spiritual, blessed way before they, made love. And that's not happening these days. And that intention is powerful.
Mhm.
Intention is, if you intend to have sex just purely for pleasure, there's no, you don't intend to get pregnant, you don't intend to catch an STD or whatever, you're putting a program into your reality by simply doing that. And I'm not saying out there, if you are having unprotected sex, that you're not going to get pregnant. So please don't risk that if you don't want to get pregnant. But I think there's a lot more to it, that we could be taking more control of our bodies. And there's definitely a lot of people out there that have had children that shouldn't be having children, but maybe they are non-character players
Mhm.
that have come in just to be part of that negative program. And
There's a woman that I'm every so I will go on TikTok just to kind of see, sometimes interesting. I find it more dark than anything else, just in
Mhm.
general, the overall vibe of it. But, I kind of from just a curious human behavior perspective, I kind of find it interesting to see what people are interested in watching. And there's some woman on there who got a huge, huge following because she's very, very unattractive. She has awful teeth and whatever. And she reached out to some cosmetic companies to help her. And she got this huge following of people that were supporting her. Well, that kind of faded. Now she got the following. She's a single mom. She like drives like Uber Eats, like one of these delivery things. She has six children, and she's pregnant with they're all different fathers, and she's pregnant with another. And everyone's just telling, like, stop. And so that would be a perfect example, Janine, of what you're just talking about.
Yeah.
Because you look and you say, oh my God, just stop. Like, look at the quality of life for these kids. And then you see what they're eating. They're eating garbage.
Yeah.
yep.
And, and I just would look at this and I said, oh my God, but that makes perfect sense. Is that they just want to,
They're just a vessel
they're a vessel. And yeah,
for non-character players, which is, if you haven't heard of non-character players, it just sounds so crazy.
it
But
does sound crazy.
we've all met them at some point. We've all met people you just think that person hasn't got a soul, or they're heartless. So it is interesting, because if you go back 100 years ago, there was only about 2 billion people on the planet anyway.
Hmm.
That's a lot of reproduction in 100 years to get up to, if it is 6 or 8 billion or whatever the figure is. And then there's other stuff people need to consider as well. It's like I knew someone once who, she couldn't even read and write before she was like a teenager, who had a very disconnected addict mother, and had a pretty bad childhood, but went on to be very successful as an adult. And when I was working with her, I said to her, your mother spirit is here and she wants you to know something. And there's a story that goes with it of two souls talking to God. And one soul says to God, I really would like to go to this place called Earth and learn about something. And God said, what do you want to learn about? And the spirit says, I want to learn about forgiveness because I haven't experienced what that is. So God says to the little soul, well, that is a big one. If you want to learn about forgiveness, somebody's got to come in and harm you. So the soul's best friend said, I'll do it because I don't want anyone else to do it. So what happened with this girl and her mum was her best friend in spirit, like closest soul cluster, matching frequency. And her mum in spirit had agreed to come in and mistreat her so that she could learn about forgiveness.
Yeah, there's a book called oh my God, what's the name of it? Your Soul, Your Soul's Plan, I think, which talks exactly about the really, really wonderful book of all these stories about a soul wanting to experience something and making contracts with people. And many times it is a father and son or a mother saying, "Okay, I will do this." And many times the father will say, "Well, I don't want to I don't want to hurt you." And the son saying, "Please, I want to experience this." And they make an agreement to exactly what
Yes.
you said. And this happened many, many, many times
Yeah.
that when someone wanted it, and there's all different chapters in the book, and why there are severe accidents, why someone becomes paralyzed, why illness, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And
So when I explained that to her, the release that came from her body was tremendous. She held on to that. Why doesn't my mother like me? I'm not good enough. Your relationship with your mother is probably the most important relationship in your life. And I was reading something the other day about how our genetics are passed down through mother to daughter. Like the genetics will be given to the son, but the son doesn't pass it on through his sperm. Everything is passed down the female lineage as well. So if you come from an abusive mother relationship, that's in your DNA, goes into your field. It's being passed on to your daughter. It's being passed on to your granddaughter. It's being passed on. And if you look over the centuries about the abuse of women, how we've been held back, how in the 16th century our husbands owned us as property. All that stuff needs to be cleared out now. And it's happening. I can see it happening in the world. Women are getting the platforms back. I was reading something last week where Finland is the happiest place in the world, and there's 5 women leaders there. 5 women lead that country, and it's been voted the happiest place, the happiest people in the world for the last 5 years or something like that. That says a lot about the matriarchy system and how it works, because it's generally for the highest good of all. And not for the highest good of the 1%. So it is interesting. It definitely is interesting. But the understanding on this level is what I'm getting at, which helps. It is part of the meaning of life. The meaning of life is for us to learn and grow and understand why we're here and why this is happening so that we can let the suffering pass through quicker instead of getting stuck in it. We get stuck with this trauma because we don't understand it, that it's happened for us, not to us. So the education hasn't been there en masse like it is now. I mean, this information's all over the place now. So people have got a different perspective. You can move through trauma much faster if you understand trauma, if you understand the karma of it and the consequences and why you chose that for that. People don't want to face the truth that they chose what's happening to them, or why is their higher consciousness put this in front of them, or especially when it's horrible. They don't want to take responsibility.
I can relate to that. Just, is this what I chose? I know this can't be what I chose, but for some reason it's what I've chose. Yeah. I've definitely experienced, especially, in getting older and understanding, why you are going through certain things, even relationships. They were there to help you heal and
Yeah.
to move on. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. To help you grow, to help you to
Hmm.
learn tolerance and forgiveness and all of these other things that the human ego doesn't like doing.
Yes.
That's another thing. Let's have a little chat about ego. What do you see ego as? Susan, what do you see your ego as?
Control.
Yeah.
Just, feeling like I have to, and a lot of that is from my childhood, because because I literally had to raise myself
Mm-hmm.
to some degree. I had very dysfunctional parents, but I really pretty much had to, I just had to. It was trial and error growing up, and even into a young adult. I didn't have anyone to guide. For me, as a mother, that was one of the first things I wanted to do for my daughter, was to guide her and help guide her. And, because I had experienced just the opposite. I didn't really have anyone to go to. It was just trial and error.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of error, because with that is there's not the wisdom. When you're young, you don't, the world is kind of training you, unless you have a strong connection with someone who will take the time to help and guide you and train you. And if you don't have that, there's a lot of trial and error. That's why I'm thinking, I asked for this. It's hard. It's hard. I don't know what I did in my last life, but it's hard for me to think I chose this. But anyway, it's been a
No.
good life.
And
Okay,
it's,
but
I was going to say, and Susan, it's not so bad
no, it's not.
in
It's
the,
not.
in the, in the
But
scheme of things.
when you get older, you look back. And I guess some of this is like, I have a good friend of mine that her mom just passed away, and she's doing what I'm doing now, taking care of her mother. But, we've had conversations, and, and our mothers were so opposite of the spectrum. And I was just, it just helps me think sometimes, like, wow, how maybe different my life would have been in the earlier stages had I had a mom more like that. I'm not putting her down or anything, because a lot of how my mom is just her personality. I don't know how to explain it. Like, she's she's one of those people that just has had a lot of good things. Well, my dad, it wasn't, but after that, people have just always taken care of her. My dad took care of her, and then my stepdad for 42 years took care of her, and now I'm taking care of her. Like, she doesn't even know how to pay a bill.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine that.
Sounds lovely.
Yes. What did I do? I'm the one always worried. But okay, and you talked about ego. So I'm the one always worrying about everything. Okay, is this, what's next? And, oh, is this bill getting paid? How's I doing this? I'm the person, in control,
Yeah.
and that's my I feel like that's is the negative part of my personality, because but I've learned I've learned to rein it in and control what it what directly affects me, instead of trying to fix everything else around me
Yeah.
that really has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. That comes with age as well.
Yes, 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 exactly.
What's your take on ego, Laura?
My understanding of ego is that it's what separates us from everyone else. And it basically, all it wants to do is protect you and it's a survival technique that without our ego of saying, I am this, we have no identity. We have no, we kind of have no means of separation. So all it's trying to do is preserve that, but it ends up getting in the way many times for many things. And then we just understand with a little compassion what it's trying to do, we can kind of sort of soften. Trying to think of an example of just, whether it's fear or whether it's, don't do this thing because you may look this certain way, or it's really just trying to protect you. So it's not something that people say, oh my God, the ego's a bad thing and we need to, you can't have any ego and whatever. There's a balance to it. Of course, those people that have huge egos and it's very obvious and they're out there and it's not serving and people are very put off by that. But it's also ego plays a role and
Hmm.
it's necessary. It's just, I think, understanding what its role is and keeping it sort of balanced and just understanding why it's doing what it's doing. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, the way I see it is like if you imagine yourself every time you get upset or angry or judgmental, it's like a post-it sticker with that frequency gets stuck to you and it grows and then that becomes like a big program in your personality. It is about survival. It is about seeing yourself as a person rather
Mhm.
than a soul as well. It's egos. There's different levels of it. So I see the lower ego is the part of us that, they call
Right.
it the id in psychology. Like that idiot part of us. And then you've got the higher ego, the higher self, which is the wiser part. And then you've got the super ego, which
Super
is
ego.
the God self, that really observer level of consciousness where you just see it for what it is. It's all just a holographic simulation that we're moving through to gain an experiential um, frequency adjustment. If I take it to that level of consciousness, we're adjusting our frequency constantly. And the
Hmm.
ego is a big part of that. It's either on your side and it's helping you adjust it in a more neutral,
Hmm.
or it's pushing you into because being too positive as well can be a downfall for people because I've met people, lots of different people in my life. I've traveled a lot, and these people that are super, super happy and jolly all the time are like they're going to crash because they're stuck in one half of duality. It's not normal to be like that all the time because life is not like that all the
Well,
time.
also many times people I've seen they may appear that way,
Yeah,
always happy, joking, and then there's another side
yeah,
that they're not showing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Becomes kind of bipolar to a degree.
Hmm. Hmm.
So to me, the ego is multi-dimensional in that respect. There's different levels of it. Spiritual development wise, as a someone who was helping people grow and teaching workshops and stuff like that, we're told you shouldn't have any ego at all. Well, that's not correct.
Right. Right. I agree.
We need ego. It's what makes us human. It's
Right.
just which aspect of the ego we choose to project into our reality and hold in our system. You can't wipe it out completely. You can't wipe out suffering completely because as we move through this simulation, our higher self puts things in our path that are going to piss us off today. For it's a test to see have we grown enough to see it for what it is, or are we going to let our lower ego take over and get angry and fight, or are we going to let the higher ego go, okay, someone cuts you up in a car, instead of giving them the finger, it's like they must be in a hurry. That's the higher ego. Giving them the finger is the lower ego because that's sending negative energy. It's going to come back on you anyway.
I also see it as like the lower ego is the very 3D, which is
Hmm.
where we are very separate. We need to prove ourselves. We hold on to our beliefs. We hold on our personality. We're very much in that I am this. We define ourselves. And the higher frequencies, like you're talking about, the higher dimensions, it almost doesn't exist because
Yeah.
we go into singularity. We go into where we don't have all the different versions. So it to me it is very a 3D experience.
Yeah. And that's where the programming comes in.
Hmm.
That the lower ego is easy to program
Mhm.
because it's given an identity. You drop into a
It's all
family.
it's basically all programmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like as our subconscious is getting it's like that computer. It's all these things are getting programmed, put through, and boom, there you are. There's Laura, there's Janine, there's
Yeah.
Susan. Like, and then we hold on to I am this.
Yeah. When you let go of it, it's nice though. When you let go of that, we're working on that, letting go of the identity of, I'm Janine, I'm a woman, I'm
Right.
this, I'm that, instead of I'm just everything and nothing.
Yeah, but that frightens people to death.
It does because for many reasons. And I remember reading about people that get into something called the seed fear of enlightenment. So when people get to a certain level of development, personal spiritual development, they put they put a wall in front of going any further because they realize in other lifetimes when we've come in back way back that when we reached enlightenment, we'd hit the goal. So we died in order for the next life lesson to come in. And that fear of death is called the seed fear of enlightenment. That needs to be deleted.
Mm.
That's another program in our systems as well.
Do you
Um,
believe there are, I mean, I guess this is kind of, we're kind of going all over today. Do you believe there are a finite number of souls that reincarnate or keep coming back or because you hear people talk about, oh, there's a waiting list of souls that are waiting for a body to incarnate into.
hmm.
Oh, you should be so thankful you have this body. There are souls that are waiting to come in. And then there's, I don't know, what's your take on that?
People, souls lining up to come into this planet. No, it it doesn't resonate with me. I don't think they're a finite number. I think they're an infinite number. We live in an infinite field of consciousness.
Yeah, and it's just more of like a um fractals, just more,
Yeah.
right? If soul's experiencing like, okay, well, I want to have this one. Oh, damn, I have to wait until there's a body available. I don't think it works that way.
No, well,
I
it's
think it's
like
kind of like the
multi-dimensional.
natural, there's souls that are leaving all the time, right? There are bodies, people are dying probably every couple of seconds on the planet,
Yeah,
right? So there's always this flow. And yeah,
constant
there's
in and out going on of energy, sparks,
mhm,
programs, pieces of binary code that project what we experience. I do think, and this is moving it on a little bit further again, that what's going on now, like when we first started this podcast, we talked about, I think, 6 different potential
mhm.
timelines. I'm narrowing that down to 2 now.
Organic and inorganic.
Yeah, the synthetic timeline and the organic timeline. And being neutral on it obviously is part of the organic timeline. The neutral one won't be synthetic. But you can see it happening in these data centers and everything else are all a part of
Oh,
that. I think those data centers are much more sinister
oh
than
yeah,
even
they're not,
than
apparently
even
they're not
what's
data
being
centers at all.
exposed.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently they're not data centers at all. They're just more surveillance. It's more,
Yeah,
it's
it's about surveillance, but I also think it's about housing the AI entity
hmm
because it needs technology as it flows through technology. And I keep saying to people, this is not a computer program.
yeah,
It's an entity. It's not artificial intelligence. It's alien intelligence. And you know,
or ancient. Been around. It's not new. It's wasn't created by humans.
exactly. But it has to happen in order for people to stand up to it. It's like you've got choices now, folks. Sit back and believe We need to, store all your information, your biometrics. You see, there's an AI ring you can buy now at $649. Have you seen it? Monitoring all your field constantly. I just don't get it. I don't even get health checks.
Well, someone posted something, I don't know, Instagram somewhere about um the latest model BMW, whatever, has an internal camera. And she said, oh, she showed the dashboard, internal camera. Well, what the hell is that for? And she said, so they could look at me while I'm driving and what I'm doing. And she says, where's the camera? She's like, oh, there it is. And she shows it. And she's like, she had a piece of adhesive from something. She goes,
There you
she
go.
covers it right up. Why would there be an internal camera? I mean, I know there's dash cameras now, whatever. Why would there be an internal camera on new cars coming out?
Well, I know what that's about. That's about the AI is monitoring how fast you drive, if you hard
What you're
brake.
paying attention to, if you're looking on your phone,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
seem like you're distracted. Yeah.
And
So they
then
can do the kill switch where they can turn your car off.
it's not even that, and the fact that they can give that information
Yes,
to your insurance company.
exactly. Insurance company or social. Yeah, it's
Yeah. So it it's getting more and more of a credit score, police state, that side. That is the negative. That is that other timeline I'm talking about. The microchipping, the another pandemic, the blah blah blah. That people are going to get hooked up to AI and transhumanism and
and
the trans.
apparently once you do, there's no going back.
No, people need to wake up to it. And I know it would be considered negative, and I don't want to frighten people, but they need to wake up to it because you need to choose the organic timeline, not the synthetic technology timeline. I can live in a world without AI. Don't need it, don't use it, never have, never used Siri on my phone, any of that stuff, not interested in it. I can use a computer and I've got a smartphone, but I don't use anything to do with AI. I've never liked it. It's always felt invasive to me. And, I could quite happy go back to my little 80 310 Nokia.
Oh, I would love to go back to my BlackBerry with my real keyboard. I miss that.
You liked your BlackBerry, did you?
Oh,
I did,
I
yeah.
held on it for so long until I had to get an iPhone.
Yeah.
I love
I
I love the keypad where you actually
You got a typewriter.
press the little thing. I love that. I
Okay.
mean, I mean, the screen was so tiny, tiny little screen, and the quality of the photos was awful. But
Yeah, it was. But I use my phone for the camera, I must admit. I've got about 15,000 photos in my
me
phone.
too, me
A
too.
lot. But I photograph books that I'm reading, pages and pages, so that, I don't have to take the book with me. I can put it into my speech,
Oh, wow.
text to speech and stuff like that. I like to listen to books while I'm reading books as well. So I use it for that reason. But yeah, basically people need to choose, guys. At home, you need to choose. Just set your intention. This is the future. I want to be part of the organic future timeline, not the synthetic, totalitarian, dystopian future that's been programmed. If I've been looking for movies to watch, and there's so many movies out there about dark aliens, Armageddon, geostorms, and the big one coming out at the moment, it comes out
Disclosure.
Friday, Disclosure. That's preparing people and planting seeds,
And
big
the Blue
time.
Project Bluebeam for some. Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's planting the seeds in the human consciousness so that when the ETs do come in, the fake ones, people are going to be prepped for it. You can see it happening. You can see the predictive programming, all this stuff. It's like the JLo movie, was about an AI terrorist.
Oh, I didn't see it. I didn't.
Yeah. So all of this is prepping people for that timeline. People need to wake up. They need to choose their timeline. They need to say, not in my.
Or they won't.
But if you
On
don't know
some
about
level,
it,
they're choosing.
yeah.
They're choosing.
If you don't know though, people are being duped. that this technology is the best thing since sliced bread, and it's definitely not. It's going to cause a lot of problems. It's taken people's privacy away. It's taken a lot away from people. They're relying on it too much. Okay, well, Susan's just texted me, her internet's gone down, so we've lost her. And I think we've covered quite a bit today, so maybe we should just call it a day there. So thanks for joining me, Susan, wherever you are. And thanks for joining me, Laura. And we'll see you next time on Talking Timelines. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Disclaimer: the content in this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The views, opinions, and information shared do not necessarily represent those of the hosts, but is provided for additional perspectives. None of the hosts are medical professionals, so we do not dispense medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any health-related issues. And thank you for listening to Talking Timelines.